The symptom is just a sign of a breakdown in function. If you shoot the messenger with it, which is the symptom, what's your body going to do? Everything you need to know is inside you. And it stuck with me.
Yeah.
And
that's powerful, right?
It's really informed me a lot to an energy that's bigger than myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that conspires to make good things happen for me.
Welcome to Inner Bliss. Success on the outside doesn't always mean happiness on the inside. Hi, I'm Quinlay Erickson, host of Inner Bliss. I am a blind psychotherapist with over 15 years of experience guiding countless individuals from Canada to Vietnam to make powerful changes in their lives. Whether you are a high-achieving professional or simply seeking inner peace, I'm here to help you transform your outer success into true inner fulfillment. To learn more about my work, visit quinlay.com or innerbliss.ca. Okay, so welcome back to Inner Bliss. And today I have a special guest here, Dr. Jeremy, who is a chiropractor. But what's really unique about what he's going to share is that he's very passionate about healing himself and healing others. And really, I have to really thank Dr. Jeremy for coming here again today, because we actually did this interview a few weeks ago, and so for some reason the video wasn't on when we had a lot of fun talking, right? But there was no recording. So I'm really appreciative for you to come here again. And so I've known Dr. Jeremy for several years now. Actually, I used to work at a men and women center, a mental health center, and I kept hearing about this chiropractor, like how the clients would really rave about him and how amazing he is, right? And so then later on, I started to use his chiropractic care, and it's really wonderful for me. And also, he's been great at sending me clients as well. So I really appreciate. And I've seen him in different settings, like acting and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that. So welcome to our talk today.
Good to be here.
And you said that you are willing for me to poke your bed and talk about things that are more vulnerable. Yeah. Okay. So tell us, who are you and why you do what you do?
Yeah. So I was a chiropractor here in Powell River, BC. Originally from Saskatchewan, and I've been in Powell River for, I guess, almost 10 years now.
Yeah, just like us.
Yeah, time flies. Yeah. And being a chiropractor for me, it's about just helping people heal and live the best possible lives that they can.
And so, what started your interest in chiropractic care?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a windy question for me, but I mean, if I go back far enough, I can look at my teen years when I saw a dad who had a disc herniation in his low back, and he had 2 failed back surgeries, and he didn't work for about 5 years, and I saw the mainstream medical system really, really fail him, and sort of robbed me having a father who was capable of being as active as he would want to be, And then in my early 20s, I had a disc herniation too.
Oh, from an accident? Or?
I was in the gym lifting more weight than I should have. I like to learn things the hard way sometimes, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, I saw a chiropractor. I did things the natural way, and I had a much better outcome than he did. And so I kind of figured, hey, there's something to this.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of where it started for me, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, was there anything in childhood, relevant to the person that you are today, the man you are today, but also to your passion in healing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, if I go back far enough, my parents divorced when I was about 3.5. And my dad was gone for a few years, left me, my brother, my mom on welfare with no money, no job, and no nothing. And that was
in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan.
Uh-huh.
He did end up coming back after a few years or so, but that initial experience left an imprint on me as a human. And it's been an interesting experience to unpack what happened when I was a kid and the support that I did and did not receive. And
was there a specific moment in childhood that stood out for you about, how your father was absent?
well, I did have a stepdad after a while, and it was just a lot of emotional turmoil and a lot of instability. My stepdad wasn't as present as I would have needed him to be. And so I was kind of like on my own at a young age, emotionally speaking. And that left an impact on me for a long time. And it's led me to explore what it really means to heal, not just be free from back pain. So there's a gift in having those experiences and really unwinding what exactly has created who I am today. Yeah.
And so how did that how did your interest in chiropractic care begin? Because I understand you were working in different kinds of jobs, right? So tell us about that. What were you working on? Sorry.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of different jobs. In university, I was a bouncer in a nightclub.
Yeah, bouncer.
For a lot of years, yeah.
When you told me that, I was so surprised because you sort of like seem gentle and calm and so like did you have to know a lot of martial arts or?
Well, funny thing enough, I got into mixed martial arts back in the early 2000s. So it was judo.
What kind? Judo.
Yeah, judo in high school, but I did like the MMA with the jiu-jitsu and the kickboxing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was big into the gym. I was really a big muscular kind of guy.
Yeah.
And it just was where I ended up. I know I was really insecure when I was young and skinny and small, so I got into this working out. It gave me this sort of confidence, and then I started going into this bar scene, which wasn't necessarily the healthiest thing for me, but it got me to be less shy. Because suddenly I'm surrounded by all these people.
Yes.
I'm learning how to talk. Yeah. And then from there, I started working in the oil rigs.
Yeah? What do you do there?
Yeah, I was a roughneck in the oil patch for a year.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, this job sucks. And so I applied to chiropractic school, and I got in, and that's where.
And where did you go? Which school did you go to?
At CMCC in Toronto.
In Toronto.
Yeah.
And so how many years would that be?
That, after undergrad, that was 4 more years. So I did 9.5 in total.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So you like done with school kind of thing? I don't know about you. When I finished school, now like I'm really done with school. I might take training or something like that, but the idea of school every day, 5 days a week, but even on weekends, you still have to think about school, right?
Yeah, the idea of formal education is just, that sounds like a nightmare.
Was it hard for you?
Hard enough, yeah. I struggle with a bit of ADD and things like that, so it was certainly not the easiest thing, but I love the topic, so it was easy enough to get interested, at least. Yeah.
Yes. And so, when you think back of, say, in your early adulthood, as a young man, maybe even as a teenager, was there anything that really essential or crucial in your healing journey? Like what started the healing journey for you?
So what started the healing journey for me? That's a good question. I think I started getting into sweat lodges, but it even started before that. I guess as an intern in Toronto.
Yeah.
I was interning at a downtown First Nations clinic, and it was from the Anishinaabe Nation in downtown Toronto. And that was actually where I first started to recognize that I had Métis roots. And if I really think about it, I noticed when I went to speak that said I had some native blood that I was actually, there's shame in there. And I was really,
Like you mean for you?
yeah, for me.
Uh-huh.
I think that
shame
was
about
really
your
the
roots?
start. It was like, oh, I'm
Oh.
ashamed of who I am.
Mm.
And then, of course, I left school. I graduated, got more curious about it, and I found out, my history and my family's history, and got into native ceremonies and sweat lodges and sun dances and plant ceremonies, and that was really like 10 years of who am I?
Mhm.
And discovering my ancestry was a big part of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was sweat lodges like for you?
The first sweat lodge for me was like coming home. I didn't know I was native until I was 13.
Mm.
And when I found out, I was like, oh God, no way. I was so ashamed.
What did you associate natives with?
Well, in small town Saskatchewan, especially in the 80s and 90s, there's a lot of racism.
Uh-huh.
And so my abandonment wound was triggered by being different.
Mm.
And so a lot of the poor children were native, the bad kids were native, and I felt deep inside of me if I was one of them, that I would be abandoned,
Mhm.
just like my dad left, right? So that
Mm.
pain, that wound was so deep, it really informed my decisions about who I believed myself to be.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I started to recognize that I needed to heal that fear, then could I accept who I really am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's been a process, and it still is.
And so let's talk about your work, your chiropractic care.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you unique as a chiropractor?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of unique chiropractors out there,
Yeah.
and I think what makes me unique is I bring together a lot of what I've learned from my indigenous elders and teachers.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of the medicine wheel, mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional, the balance of all those things
Yeah.
to help keep a person in alignment physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
and bring it all together. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what do you see as the role of spirituality in your work?
Yeah, in my personal belief, it's the foundation of who we are. Spiritual beings and human bodies. Everybody has their own belief around that,
Mm-hmm.
and I encourage people to explore what that means for them, to make that medicine wheel whole. Because a lot of people in the West, they tend to ignore the spiritual part
Yeah. Yeah.
and focus on the science and the physical and the mental and the emotional.
Yeah. And even, in counseling, I remember one of the counselors I used to work with, whenever somebody bring up about spirituality or religion, she sort of cringe a bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, no, that's just too voodoo, and
Yeah.
yet psychology, spirituality, that's a huge role, right? When I was in a refugee camp, spirituality was a big thing. Doesn't matter, Buddhism, Catholicism, Christianity, when they had something to count on,
Yeah.
really helped them. Now that's religion, right?
Yeah.
But spirituality, how does it help you? Like even yourself.
Yeah. It's for me, I see the creator in all things. And it's like I connect to an energy that's bigger than myself,
Mm-hmm.
and that conspires to make good things happen for me, even though I can't always recognize it as see.
Yeah.
When mistakes happen, even the first recording that we did didn't work.
I know.
But it was
felt
beautiful
so bad.
because I had some experiences at my work that actually would really be good to be talking about in here.
Okay,
And
let's
so
talk about
everything's
that.
always like working out in
Yeah.
my favor if I can
Uh-huh.
understand that there's something beyond my
Mm.
understanding that's like wants to come through, and it wants to, and that's what my
Yeah.
elders have taught me in traditional native cultures. It was always like you couldn't separate spiritual from non-spiritual.
Yeah.
It was all one big beautiful thing, where this mystery, the great mystery they called it, right? And we're all a part of the mystery
Mhm.
beyond my ability to comprehend. And I like that.
I know, like for me, like so many times in my life, I could have died. I could have been in danger. You think about um, me going to university. I remember I used to take the bus and SkyTrain, come home from university like 10 o'clock at night, or even at 11 o'clock at night. And in Surrey, like Wally. I don't know if you know the Wally area. That is known to be like ghetto. Right? Like when I think back, oh my goodness, like so many things could have happened to me. And I was living on my own from 18 to 33 until I met Hans. You know, from university to college, even so SFU, McMaster, and so many things could have happened to me, and nothing happened to me. Right? Even being on the boat for 10 days, you know, we're in the middle of the ocean, nowhere, totally lost. And that's why, yeah, I'm here must be for a reason. And I don't understand how some people couldn't make it. I don't know, right? I'm not any more special. You know what I mean? Like, just such a mystery.
Yeah.
And I can't explain why I live and some people don't. And I don't know. I don't know why. And I don't think I'm any more special. But I sure really want to make the best of it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Can you share with us some of your spiritual moments, you know, like something that really...
Oh, boy, yeah. Oh, my God, where would I even start? You know, the first time, I don't like the word God, but there's sometimes I get a message. You know, my first vision quest, I was it was the 4 days, no food, no water. You sit in one spot and you pray for 4 days. I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm hungry and grouchy. And I stood up.
What kind of quest was this?
It's called a vision quest in native traditional culture.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And, you know, I got a message and it said, everything you need to know is inside you. And it stuck with me.
Yeah.
And
that's powerful, right?
It's really informed me a lot. And people want to say, oh, hey, I got a message for you. Or, hey, don't you want to know about this? And I come back to that message all the time. I'm like, actually, if I need to know it, I'll know it, you know? Little things like that. I'm encouraged to go within for my answers, not in somebody else's head or somebody else's books or ideas. It's inside. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to really reflect on that, right? Because I love to read. I love to learn, you know, from podcasts, videos, and those things have helped me a lot. Yeah, but I guess how to balance that. So how do you balance that? Learning from people, but also knowing that a lot of answers come from your inside.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, there's a balance between the two. I love also reading and listening, and then if it rings true inside of me, then I guess that's something I could pay more attention to.
Yeah.
Like I said, and what's true for me is true for me, but not necessarily true for another person. But I don't want to digest their truth as if it's what's working for me.
Yeah.
I see a lot of that. And somebody says this, like, yeah, but do you actually believe that? Or are you just, you know, taking their ideas on as your own? And I used to do a lot of that, and so I guess I've learned. Yeah.
So earlier you said there were some things at your work since we last talked. So what's that?
2 things. So, what chiropractic is really an amazing thing, and it's not always easy to understand how the body is going to heal. And so, mostly people come to us for back pain or neck pain or headaches or some physical thing. But I always tell people, like, you know, after we do this adjustment, it's really like a reset for your brain.
Oh, why is that though? So to me, adjustment is like in the body here.
Yeah.
Right? Why is that?
Why is which?
Like how does adjustment in the body and then it affects the brain?
Well, it's very complex neurology. It's actually the latest. I was listening to a podcast from a neurologist talking about that, how it actually resets the fight or flight response in the body. It gives your brain more accurate information about what's happening inside your body. It helps balance hormones. It lights up the prefrontal cortex. It does a pile of things that we're just discovering. It's really exciting stuff. And so just to illustrate my point on that, so just last week, 2 patients. This one guy comes back in after his first adjustment. He's like kind of panicky. He's like, "Doc, you won't believe this. I'd have to ask you. You know, I was looking across the cafeteria and I could read the sandwich board for the very first time. His vision had completely improved."
Can you improve my vision?
Yes, I know. Like, oh my God, Clint, I don't know. I'll ask the boss about that one. And then another guy, he came back in after his first adjustment. He's a pianist. He's been
He's what?
struggling. Yeah, from piano. He plays piano.
Yes.
There's this Bach piece he's been working on for like a year, right?
Yeah.
He kept getting stuck on the same part. And he kept thinking, oh, I need to practice more. I need to practice more. So he goes home after his adjustment, and what happens? Sits down at the piano, knocks it out of the park. He's like, oh, no, that was just a fluke. He did it 3 times in a row. After a whole year of not being able to do this piano piece, he completely can do it every time now.
So the adjustments resets the nervous system?
It resets the nervous system, but also we know that your brain has better dexterity and knowledge of where your joints and limbs are. And so if you have better control over your hands as a musician, getting an adjustment is going to increase your brain's ability to perform the task.
Is it because the brain sends the message better?
It's getting more accurate information of where the joints are in space.
Oh.
And it can coordinate the muscles better. And because the fight or flight protective amygdala fight or flight system has now been turned down, the brain thinks more clearly.
So did you learn about this in school, or is this something that you learn more and more as you practice?
Yeah, well, this research was not present when I was in school.
Yeah.
The results have, the very first adjustment ever cured a man of being deaf. We've always seen miracles. We've never known why. And so the science is slowly creeping up.
Yes.
And, the American Medical Association, they tried to squash chiropractic in the U.S., went to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And so mainstream medicine,
what were the reasons?
We're competition.
Ah.
I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories around that. I don't want to dive too deep.
Yes.
But it did go to the Supreme Court of the United States that the AMA had a panel to try and get rid of chiropractors. And there's been books written about it, and it's completely true. You can Google it. And so chiropractors won, and the case was thrown out. And this is why there's been at odds with mainstream medicine and chiropractic for 100 years.
Yes. So what are some misconceptions about chiropractic care?
I mean, there's many different techniques. We don't have to always crack the bones. We have adjusting instruments, which you've experienced.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was amazing. You cracked me a lot. I saw him on Friday.
Yeah.
One thing about Dr. Jeremy. So sometimes in the past, people couldn't quite crack on my neck, for different reasons. I don't know. Why would that be the case? But like you're always able to do that, even if I haven't seen you for a while. So is it? Why is that? Is it like your energy? Is it
I personally believe
skills?
that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
It's the consciousness of the practitioner when they touch the other person, and they can attune really well and create a calm state in both nervous systems.
Yes.
The adjustment becomes very easy. But if one person's agitated and they can't get to a nice grounded state, then the body's going to guard because it's not safe. That's been my experience so far.
And so in my culture, often I heard this saying, how do I say this? So the healing hands of a strong healer has a lot to do with the healing. So say, for example, 2 identical chiropractors or 2 identical acupuncturists, right? But there's something healing about them. It's some kind of healing power that they have that can make a big difference, even though they may have identical skills.
Yeah, it's more than just a technique.
Yeah.
Again, there wouldn't be any science to back this up, but some people have a gift.
Yeah.
When they can touch a body, and then somehow there's an energy that just feels good and it relaxes.
Yeah.
And then a healing, it's like the brain can't be in 2 places in one time. It can't be in fight or flight, and it can't be in rest and digest and healing mode. It's one of the 2. And so if this chiropractor is stuck in fight or flight, they're also in a state of protection, and they can't help this person they're adjusting be in
yeah.
this more relaxed healing mode if they're not in it themselves.
Yes.
And so that's the way I see that. So I have to make sure I'm like really calm, grounded, centered.
You that anchor, you that
Mm-hmm.
source of safety.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
really, to me, is what that is. It's like creating an environment for the potential for healing to occur. If healing occurs, that's beautiful. It doesn't have to. It's up to that individual's body, their energy, and their life, and their spirit.
Yeah.
For those elements to come together, for that adjustment to do that magical thing or not, I have no control over that. But I just create the potential.
No, that's amazing. And I mean, I witnessed that for myself even. I used to run men's groups, and a lot of those men were like alpha men, you know, like military, ex-cop, what else, you know, like they were doing crimes, drug dealers, you know, like like really really strong men. But a lot of them, because when they came to the center, they weren't in a lot of mental health trouble, right?
Yeah.
So they were in constant fight or flight, hypervigilant. And I had to really be calm and be grounded. And so people would walk into the group. It's like, what happened? It's so zen. I mean, right now I'm talking to you. I'm happy. It's a different energy.
Yeah.
But when I'm in my, you know, therapeutic mode, I'm all
when you put that hat on, it's like
yeah,
the energy changes.
It's amazing. What do they call? I thought they call that neural mirroring or something.
Yeah.
Or
That sounds
entrenchment. I think
familiar.
last time you said
Entrainment.
entrainment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so do you see differences in your male patients versus your female patients in terms of what they see you for?
Yeah, usually for the men, typically it's just to fix their back.
Yeah.
I had this little pain I've been ignoring for how many decades.
Yeah.
They're a bit more than just the physical. And then I educate them. We do a whole intake. We have a lot of helping them understand why they're having issues. And more so, I find women to be a bit more proactive.
Yes.
And open to like the deeper layers.
Same thing in counseling.
Yeah.
But I thought that I thought the men would love chiropractor more because it's a concrete thing.
They love the crunch.
Yes.
But sometimes they don't want to get to like the whole issue.
I see.
To why they're out of alignment.
Right.
You know? So there's different challenges there. But, you know, things are changing for sure. Yeah.
Do you, I guess I was going to ask, do you find patients in Powell were different? But I guess you've been practicing here, right? Have you practiced anywhere else?
When I was in Toronto as an intern for a year, and then in Courtney as well.
Yeah. So do you see differences there and here?
Well, you know what? I find Powell River men and people to be a bit more open-minded.
Yeah.
Yep.
And same as the clients that I see, right? Because I mean, it could be because I do EMDR, I do hypnotherapy, therefore they come, they already know, heard about it, so they're open about it, right? But I find, they're very open. A lot of people want to do healing and healing journey or try different alternatives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find being closer to nature maybe draws a certain kind of person as well.
That's true. Yeah. For like a small town as well, right?
Yeah.
More simple living.
Yeah. The priorities are a bit different for somebody who wants to live in the middle of nowhere here.
So what do you do when you have clients who are very heady and very concrete, black and white, you know, fix my back, you know, fix my neck? How do you approach them?
So I love those kinds of people because I used to be one.
Yeah. Really?
Yep. And
It's
so
hard to imagine.
I know.
In your 20s or in your 30s?
Oh, yeah. Up until my mid-30s before I got into the spiritual stuff. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I use a lot of science, a lot of facts. Here's what the research says.
Yeah.
Here's what we know. Here's what's going on with your nervous system and your spine and your brain. And the heady part, they can wrap their head around something solid.
Yes.
And then I let the adjustment do the work. Have them really understand how the adjustment's changing their brain function.
Yeah.
Not just making their pain go away, but how their body's really starting to heal. And then they feel the thing that I'm saying. And they're like, oh, and they start to notice things outside of their being stuck in their head.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people walk out, they're like, oh, I feel light. I feel tingly.
Yeah. So when they notice the shifts or the results,
Yep.
then that can also help them to open their minds more.
Because literally the adjustment's changing their mind. They're changing their brain. Right? So a lot of times the headiness comes from being too much in fight or flight. Right? And we know concretely that when we adjust the subluxation, the misalignment in the spine, that changes for a window, for a time period, right? And in that window, I plant a seed. It's like, pay attention to what's different. Like that one guy, and he's like, Doc, my piano, he couldn't believe, he blew his mind. He still can't believe it.
Yeah.
See, things like that.
So that's... If anxiety, trauma, relationship, or other life challenges are holding you back, you deserve a path to healing and peace. Hi, my name is Quinlay Erickson, and I am a blind psychotherapist and coach who is very passionate about guiding people like you to transform their suffering. I use very powerful EMDR and hypnotherapy to help you achieve incredible breakthroughs in your healing and wellness journey. Wherever you are in the world, I can support you online to do amazing healing work. So take the first step to a better life today. Let's begin your journey to happiness and empowerment. Visit Quinlay Therapy at quinlay.com. So that's interesting. So when you heady, you're saying that means they're probably more in fight flight response. Yeah, I guess that's a defensive mechanism or protective kind of mode.
Just a little bit more thinking, and sort of like, troubleshooting for the future, a little more anxious, a little more future-oriented thought patterning.
Yeah,
to me,
disconnect from the body.
Yeah,
too,
exactly, right? We're trying to avoid a problem in the future that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a sign of a bit too much fight or flight.
Do you find though that so once men see that you can make a difference, they actually more open than women?
I wouldn't say more.
No?
But like there's more openness for sure, and just in general, yeah.
Yeah. Because I noticed with me when I work with male clients, right? So they might have some reservations at first, but like once they would notice the shifts or something, they actually would be way more receptive to my guidance than
Oh, really?
women. Yeah, like
Yeah.
because they say with men, if they trust you,
Yeah.
they really trust you.
Yeah.
Because women, they have inputs from their mothers, from their sisters, from their girlfriends, from their boyfriends. Just inputs everywhere. And men usually their inputs maybe from their wives, and then maybe a counselor. It's limited, right? So I don't know whether you notice that in your line of work, because I love working with men, because once you in.
Yeah, no, now that you lay that out, for sure, I would have to agree that right when they're in, they're really in. The only thing that gets in the way is usually like the old patterns with working too much and then putting things off until they break again. But
so what do you find, what would you think challenging as patients, like that you find like hard to crack, or hard to, I don't mean literally, but also figuratively, what would be hard to crack?
Oh, the worst is it's between the ears. When people just want to come in for a quick crack, and they don't want to figure out why the problem's there. Because all I can do is move the bones, but if they want to go back to what's creating their problem, they're never going to solve their issue. They'll be chasing the same pain, and their life's never going to change. And I find that the most frustrating thing.
Do you find like they blame the pain on the actual incident, or isolated instant.
Well, they treat the adjustment like an Advil, like a very symptomatic, reactive mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is the main problem with our entire healthcare system.
Yeah.
Is not being proactive about how to help the body function better, as opposed to being prophylactic or like palliative, just keep the pain below the surface so I can function.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get all these other symptoms because their body hasn't started to heal yet. And that's the biggest complaint that I have with my work, is trying to get to people's belief systems to help them really see there's so much more.
Yeah, and similarly for me, I find the clients that would be most challenging is that they see their suffering is because of some other person, people, events.
Yeah.
Not how they how they interpret, how they make meaning of the events or not, right? Especially like people who may have complex trauma, and then they have an accident or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? They really see that that's because of the accident, and therefore I have the pain, and this pain is here to stay.
They identify with it. And so what's interesting about that, this podcast I was listening to, about how they're showing in the brain, it's really complex neurology. I barely understand it myself, but like they're showing that what you believe to be true is actually true for you.
Yes.
And what's amazing about this research now is that with the chiropractic adjustment, is that belief system, what they believe to be true about themselves, they're measuring it change.
Yeah.
Just by doing an adjustment, a person can have a shift in what they believe to be true about themselves. That's fascinating stuff. That's like cutting edge. This paper is they're not even just fully published yet.
I didn't think of chiropractic care like that.
It's because it's changing their brain.
Yeah. But I can see. So when people in hypnosis, right?
Yep.
Because they relaxed, so like their nervous system relaxed. A lot of times the guard is totally down. Well, not totally, but they're still in control.
Yep.
They still know what they're doing, what they're saying, but they're a lot more receptive. And you can have breakthroughs the first session a lot more easy than just say talk therapy. So I wonder if what you're talking about is similar to that, because it resets the nervous system. It tells the nervous system, I'm in a safe mode. I don't have to fight. I don't have to flight. There's no danger.
Yeah, your brain's now getting more accurate information from the organs, from the energy, the emotions.
I honestly didn't think of chiropractic care like that. Wow.
Dr. Heady Havik, she's a chiropractic neurologist. This is the lady, if anybody ever wants to find out this science. Haavik is her last name. She's a chiropractor, works at the College in New Zealand, the best school in the world as far as I'm concerned for chiropractic. Yep. Because they teach the stuff that I'm talking about, whereas a lot of schools just want to teach pain.
Yeah.
Because they want to stay in bed with the doctors and the MDs and allopathy, which there's a need for that. But there's also a need for this other thing too. They can work together.
Yeah.
And that's what I would love to see in the future.
That's exciting. And it's interesting. Last time we talked, I'm not sure how it came up, about that the Dr. Mindy Powell, and you told me about fasting like a girl. I read the book. It's actually really cool.
Yeah.
And you told me that I was very surprised too, that she's also a chiropractor. Very holistic. Right?
Yeah. We've been ahead of the curve for a long time in chiropractic.
Say that again?
We've been ahead of the curve for a long time in chiropractic.
Yeah. So, you said that you been in men's group, facilitating men's group, also a part of men's group. What kind of men's group?
Yep. I was a part of the Mankind Project for a number of years, and I'm doing a solo thing with a bunch of other men in town.
Yeah. What's that like for you?
Yeah, that was really a foundational piece of my healing journey for sure. I didn't have a lot of hands-on fathering when I was young.
Yeah.
And so men's groups have been really instrumental in connecting with men who share the same experience and relearn the skills through interacting with other older, healthier males that have emotional intelligence, have feelings, aren't afraid to cry, can express themselves.
Yeah.
And I was able to engage with that whole community and sort of onboard and reintegrate those parts of myself that had been lost when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What parts would you say?
Just like my emotions and how to identify my feelings and express myself, and that alone, to identify, oh, I'm sad,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, I'm angry,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm angry with you. Now how can I understand why that is? Not that
Not
they're the
that.
problem.
Yeah.
That my trigger, my feelings are about me,
Mm-hmm.
less about them. And so that whole process has been very enlightening.
What did you use to associate emotions and feelings with?
Oh, I didn't. I would just
You didn't.
no,
You didn't feel
no.
it. You didn't notice them. Didn't
I
feel
know.
them.
I was like one of those guys. I was partying. I was
Was alcohol a big role?
studying. I was in the gym. I was on the superficial, very much in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
No emotional intelligence,
Mm.
like nothing.
Uh-huh.
Which is why alcohol was very appealing to me in my
What did it
teens
do?
and 20s.
What alcohol do?
I could just feel joy.
Uh-huh.
It was a good time.
Yes, I heard
Because,
that a lot.
yeah, right? It's like there's so much grief and anger and sadness from my childhood that I had no outlet for.
But when you drank, like, did emotions come out? Because a lot of people would tell me, like, oh, that's when I can, connect to people. I can feel. I can
Yeah.
cry even.
Oh, yeah. Everything was more available when I was drunk, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just more at ease. The anxiety was gone.
Yeah,
I could
it's like the
express
perfect
myself.
pill,
Oh, it
right?
was fantastic. Until it wasn't.
Yeah. And how was it? How was it? Wasn't?
So what was amazing was how I quit. I haven't drank in over 10 years now, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not even like social drinking?
Not even care for it
Well,
at all.
I'm allergic to alcohol.
Well, you know what? Listen to this.
Yeah.
So I started doing sweat lodges when I reconnected to my native roots.
Yeah.
And this one guy in the sweat, he's like, he's sober too, and through recovery, and he's like, hey, just so you know, you can't be drinking this booze and doing this healing work at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, whatever. Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And
were you a doctor then?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I was. And what happened was I started to get styes around my eyes.
Sty?
Styes.
What's
Yeah.
that?
A big red welt in the eyelid.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Huge, hideous styes. I was like, where did that come from? And so it took me 6 months to figure it out. I would go out with some friends, have some drinks, and get some sty in my eye.
But you didn't get that before.
No. but this is the point, yeah. And then I would maybe not go out drinking for a while, because at this point, hangovers were getting worse. I'm maybe 34 at the time, 33.
Yeah.
And every time I would drink, my eyes would blow up. And after talking to some Chinese medicine people, they said, oh, yeah, because the anger is stored in the liver.
Ah.
And you have this little angry inner child. And if you're not going to be, you can't connect to this angry inner child and suppress the anger at the same time with the alcohol.
Yeah.
And so once I stopped drinking, I never got a sty since.
Oh.
I tested it with bourbon, I tested it with wine, I tested it with cider, and each different alcohol gave me the same reaction.
Wow, your body's very smart.
I said, oh, I guess my body knows what it's doing, hey?
Yeah, it doesn't want you to do bad things.
Yeah.
It's like my body when I was young. Well, like in my 20s, I started to be allergic to greasy, oily things. I would get nauseous. So that's why I don't enjoy those things. But last time, yes, you told me about some kind of gene that you had that was a big problem.
Yeah.
Tell us more about
that. It's this MTHFR gene mutation.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah, so basically that gene is mutated in a way that I don't produce the enzymes that break down folate, which has created very high homocysteine levels in my body, which led to anxiety, hair loss, eruptions on my face, low energy,
so
fatigue.
Like this in your 20s?
Whole life.
Whole life?
Whole life, yep.
Oh.
And just in the past month, since I've been supplementing properly, so it's a severe dietary deficiency for 45 years has suddenly been lifted, and my whole life has completely changed.
So like you ate properly, but certain things wouldn't break down because of that gene.
Yeah, just a lot of chronic inflammation because of it as well. and a very low ability to process fatty foods.
Ah.
Just
So now it's just supplement. That's it?
yeah.
You
So I
fixed it?
supplemented methylated folate. So
Yeah.
genetic methylation testing is the name of the test that I did.
Mm.
And so I supplement with methylated folate. Methylation is a process that your body uses to refine nutrients to make other things.
Oh my goodness.
And
So like
so
nutrients wouldn't absorb before.
exactly.
Oh wow.
So now I take methylated folate, the broken down version of it,
Yeah.
to complete that pathway, the DNA methylation pathway. And now my body can actually function and make healthy proteins and cells for the first time in 45 years.
That's crazy.
And
And only the past few months?
month, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so like what kind of changes have you noticed so far?
Yeah, instantly my hair stopped falling out.
Oh, that would help.
Yeah, I know. My skin.
Although they did that, I mean, I heard that the rumor that men, young men with hair loss, higher testosterone.
Mhm. I mean, I have a lot of hair, but I thought it was maybe age related or stress.
Yeah.
And so that stopped immediately.
Mm.
I was like, okay, well, that's great. And then my skin on my cheek, I had these eruptions.
Uh-huh.
I would look at a croissant and I would get an eruption on my cheek for 5 years. Instantly gone.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep. My sleep is amazing now. Much less anxious, way more calm.
So people listening to you, what kind of symptoms would they notice for themselves to do that kind of test?
Yeah, so I would look at, over the course of a lifetime, anxiety, unresponsive to medication,
Yeah.
high blood pressure, unresponsive to medication, hair loss, gut issues, psoriasis,
Wow, a lot of
eczema.
things.
Yeah, it's a very broad array of spectrums because the liver can't keep up to all the toxins built up from this broken pathway, right?
Yeah.
And so when we eat and do not enough exercise, we eat bad things. The body uses the skin also to get rid of the toxins. Hence the skin issues, right?
And the fasting didn't help then.
The fasting would help, but it wouldn't stick because the pathway was still garbage.
Yeah.
And so I would always get like moderate results with everything.
Yeah.
And just end up frustrated.
So is it gender specific?
It's 10 to 15% regardless of the gender.
Oh.
And so also with miscarriages and fertility, high percentage of miscarriages if there's no folate methylation happening.
Wow.
And so women who are having trouble conceiving, men that are also having trouble with their sperm counts, like look into it. It's an easy fix. It can be completely life-changing.
I never heard of it up until this point.
Yeah, me too. Shocked.
Because often you think that's a small poor diet perhaps, or maybe stress, maybe a hormonal imbalance, things like that, or even autoimmune
stuff. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Yeah, leading to chronic systemic inflammation and then fatiguing the body and having all kinds of other things go haywire. And it's just such an easy thing to look for.
Yeah.
Rule out the easy things first before you do surgery or take pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
It's like do the easy things first. I
know, right? I mean, the culture now is like the pill to fix this. Some people I know in my family, like 6, 7 pills.
Yep.
It's crazy. Or like the patients, the clients at the center.
Yep.
So you take a pill. This pill gives you side effects. And then so you take another pill for that side effects.
Well, the worst part is the symptom is just a sign of a breakdown in function. If you shoot the messenger with it, which is the symptom, what's your body going to do? It's going to give you another symptom in a different area of your body. And you got pills for that, don't worry.
Yes.
Until suddenly you have, a handful of 8 or 9 pills, but the cause hasn't been affected yet.
If you'd known me 10 years ago, I would have seen you way more often. So 10 years ago, 13 years ago. Like I had constant pain in my neck, my shoulders, my, and then I would go for massage or chiropractor. Well, no, actually at that time I didn't know chiropractor much, but massage. And I would feel good. Like, oh, so this is what no pain feels like.
Yeah.
But just like a day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so my body was younger then, but yet now, I see you more for tightness and things like that, but most of it to maintain or to do self-care,
Yep.
right? But yeah, and then thinking back, it was I think it's a combination of stress and long commute,
Yep.
like bus and SkyTrain, and probably diet. But it's amazing how my body, and I used to use inhaler, get a shorter breath.
Mhm.
Um, sinus problems, I would have to use what was it called, rhinocord or something like
Yep.
that. Yeah, and now I don't have to use any of those things.
Well, yeah, if you get to the root causes of your issues, the body can function. The body should heal. It's like I use a general rule at my office. We'll adjust the spine, but we have to address the three main reasons why misalignments or subluxations even occur in the first place,
And
which is like physical stress,
yeah,
right? An injury, sitting too much,
yeah,
mental and emotional stress, past trauma, how we engage with the world around us, our fight or flight, and then chronic inflammation from diet.
yes,
If we don't address these three things, the spine's going to go out of alignment again.
yeah,
And so there's always this balance between what a person can do to help themselves and what we can do in the office. There's a relationship there. And then, of course, I always add in omega-3s, vitamin Ds, probiotics to help the body's healing systems occur. And one more thing you should say, it's like the diet, to keep it really simple,
yeah.
I tell people for 2 weeks, don't eat nothing white and see what happens.
You're racist.
I know, right? Don't eat the white. But yeah, wheat, sugar, dairy, all that stuff causes all kinds of problems.
Totally. Like yeah, diet is huge for me, and actually, even I started to exercise more last year or so, more because of you. You mentioned it, but because for a long time I was just focusing on diet, and things were good, right? So how it is sometimes when you're generally healthy, you're not as motivated to add more.
Yeah, I do.
Right. So that's why. But so thanks to you. So you any sort of at home stuff that you can recommend to people to do?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of general health or pain, or what's more specifically?
More related to say people come to see you for chiropractic problems, right? What are some things that you recommend for them to do at home?
Mostly just the things I've told you. So the dietary, you have to get rid of what's causing inflammation. If the tissues aren't healthy, good luck removing metabolic debris, delivering oxygen, things like that. So eliminate anything that causes inflammation in the diet. Typically, I'd say eat seasonally, and also fish and meat as well.
Yeah.
Right. So nothing processed, nothing refined. Eat what nature gives you when nature gives it to you.
Yes, I love that. Right.
Right.
Whole foods from nature. Anything that has more than 2-3 ingredients probably not good for you.
Probably not good. And then move the body frequently. Like I'm a big fan of going into yoga, doing Pilates, whatever moves the body dynamically and differently often.
It's really interesting because so I told you up until a year or so ago, right? I thought it was pretty not a lot of movement, pretty lack of activity, right? And but when I started to exercise, I could do things pretty easy. But I remember now that I think about it, because I remember listening to podcasts and they talk about how in the old days, even though people sat around a lot, but they squat, or they would sit on really hard surfaces, so they had to move all the time.
Yeah.
And so thinking for me, I wonder, because I spent a lot of time on a hammock. So I would just rock my body, but like balancing, so my legs would be on the hammock, but the hammock would be swinging the whole time.
Yeah.
So I use my body to move the hammock. So I don't know. Do you think it has something to do with like helping with my body?
I'm sure it's not hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of movement, but I saw that as inactivity, right? I saw that as I used to be pretty sedentary.
Yeah.
But I think that probably creates a kind of like a rhythm for my brain as well.
It's probably
And,
better than sitting on the couch. I'll give you that much.
but I think back about the hammock. I think so. What's your bucket list?
My bucket list
Yeah,
in terms of
what what would you like to really do, or what are things that fill you up and keep you
ooh,
engaged in life?
yeah. I mean, well, I just bought my first rifle.
You what?
I just bought my first rifle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I want to hunt. I want to
Ooh.
I want to harvest my own food.
Uh-huh.
So that is up there on the list.
On Tuxedo Island? Oh here.
Probably Texada or wherever, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to have a closer relationship to the food that gives me life,
Uh-huh.
and so that's high up there.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I want to go to visit some of the top chiropractic clinics that are out there. I want to learn from like the best of the best. I
Awesome.
want to learn like what are they doing that they see so many more of these miracle type responses so often.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
What systems are they using in their office? That engages me at a deep level because they're serving and helping people become their best selves. That's what the chiropractor's really real goal is, right?
Yes.
And so to dive deeper into that world too.
So what's your next few ones
My next
that
few.
you like to go to?
Well, there is a course in the UK in
Yeah.
February. I'm looking at
Uh-huh.
best practices. But I'd love to go to New Zealand and see some of the new research coming out of there, and get my hands on and find out the new systems and new techniques and
Okay,
things
so
like
hear
that.
that? So, you can come from far away and go to Powell River and see Dr. Jeremy.
Yeah.
So tell us about the acting. So, a few months ago, no, last year. Yeah, last year, right? Christmas? Was it around
Yeah,
Christmas?
Christmas.
Yeah. I happened to go to a play. So my husband and I, and holy blow, my chiropractor was in that play. And it was quite hilarious. It was a wonderful play. Actually, usually it's hard for me to follow a play, but that one I could follow the whole thing. And so how did that come about for you?
Yeah, it's talking about spiritual experiences, right?
Yeah.
I remember I was telling you last time maybe how I was so been afraid of speaking in public because of a bad experience when I was a little kid.
Uh-huh.
When I was Santa Claus, I got stage fright on stage. I couldn't move, and I was telling my friend one day,
Can you
"Hey,
tell us how did that happen for you as a child? I mean, you told me that. But
okay, yeah. I walked up to the microphone and I stepped on it,
yeah.
and he made that big whining sound. And he goes, "Mwah."
Oh.
And I'm
Which
6.
is very common.
It is, but there was a dress rehearsal, and the whole school was laughing, and I froze. It's like they were laughing at me.
How old were you then?
I was 6 years old,
Oh.
and I couldn't move, and I was just frozen on stage. So I shared that story with my friend, and the very next day, some random patient's driving by my office with a script in her hand and has this feeling, I need to give Jeremy the script. He's perfect for this part. 3 years ago. And she walked in and says, you need to do this play. I'm like, oh my God. I said yesterday, how am I going to resolve this issue from when I was Santa Claus, when I was a kid?
Yeah.
And the next day, an opportunity presented itself.
What has that done for you? Doing acting.
Yeah, it got me less afraid to be seen. Yeah, speaking in public.
Yes.
Even a big part of what chiropractors do is educating the public, being in front of an audience, being comfortable.
Heard.
Having a message and saying, hey, this is important information you need to know. As a chiropractor, it's a big part of what direction I want to move into is public education. The things that
like workshops?
Yeah. Things that we're talking about, people need to know.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you see so you worked with men as patients. You also do groups with men.
Yeah.
What do you see some of the challenges that men tend to have nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, purpose and meaning comes to mind. Depending on the age of the man, for sure, getting back in touch with their emotions.
Yeah. Why?
And
Why
doing
is it important for men? From a chiropractor.
yeah,
I
well,
can
I
tell you
mean,
why, but
it's like if the body's holding on to these emotions and unable to relax, then the adjustment's going to be really hard. Like the body's tense, it's hard to adjust the spine if a person can't let go. If a person's so tense all the time, they're also draining their body's energy. And their body might not have the energy after all these decades of being uptight to maybe fight off the proper cancer cells.
Yeah.
And maybe it's affecting their mental health because they're fatigued in the relationships. So the men's work is really foundational for getting men in touch with that. Yeah.
And so for you, being in touch with emotions, how has that changed you, your life, you as a person?
Just more whole, able to communicate, like to feel more. If I know what I'm feeling, then I can express it in my words instead of my actions. And my repressed emotions in the past would dictate my behaviors. But now I'm in touch with myself. And so my past no longer controls me. The present controls me. I can feel something. I can name the thing I'm feeling. I can say, oh, here's what's happening for me. I think it's related to this thing in my past, as opposed to acting out in a certain way or being snappy with my energy because I'm angry.
So when you're aware of the unconscious,
Yeah.
then you can consciously change
Yeah.
the patterns.
Exactly. I can identify my patterns now that I'm consciously aware of the emotions that were driving them. So I'm becoming more in alignment with a deeper part of myself because of that.
So what do you see the role of vulnerability for men, in relationships?
Yeah, it's courage. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to become vulnerable. For a man to show up in their full authenticity requires them to be engaging with these uncomfortable parts of themselves. So, I mean, to me, a man is somebody who is whole. We can't show up in our relationships as a whole man unless we know ourselves. A man knows himself. And that's a man that can be trusted. A man who doesn't know himself is not a man you can trust. And so the more a person is integrated and knows these parts, they know their shadows, then they can show up in authenticity without fear guiding their decisions, but that deeper spiritual part of themselves, so who they really are.
So can you share with us like either a vulnerable moment in your life or maybe a dark moment?
Oh my
in your
God,
life?
so many to pick from.
Is it? Yeah.
I mean, even in my relationship with Jennifer, it's like expressing my feelings. When if I get snappy with her, I take responsibility for that. Say, hey, I'm sorry. That was actually had nothing to do with you. That was actually, we were making plans around Christmas just yesterday, and I was noticing I was getting quite guarded and short with my words, and I was able to take some space for myself and recognize that Christmas is bringing up all these bad feelings from my parents split when I was a kid. Had nothing to do with her, but the energy was a bit as defensive for no reason. I'm like, oh, this is not normal. And so I was able to show up for myself and recognize that's what that was, and then express in communication with her, like, hey, honey, I'm sorry. I can say sorry, and that's not a big deal. There's no shame in saying sorry now. And so my perfectionist part is less in control. So it's okay for me to be snappy or make a mistake and then take responsibility and apologize and reconnect. Yeah.
And so then how does that impact your relationship?
So
when
much
you're
more
able to do that?
so much more love. Yeah. I mean, if I can open my heart and there's ugly things in there, and those ugly things are as welcome as the not ugly things, then all of me is welcome. Then that's a great place for a connection and real love. And that's acceptance. It's unconditional.
So if Jennifer is here, what might be something that she say, I have a hard time with Jeremy usually because
Because he's in his head.
is that Really?
Yeah, maybe less more so now, but for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can be I can be aloof. I can be distant.
Yeah. Sounds familiar. I think
Yeah,
sound like me.
but it was like connection was conditional when I was young, and there was so much pain
Yeah.
associated with it. So of course, until I was able to like connect to my own feelings and my own fears, I couldn't connect to somebody else. And so that's a process.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what's your definition of a successful man?
Yeah, I changed my answer since last time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
for me, like a successful man for me is a man who has really working on continually integrating parts of himself to become whole and to have his whole self in service to something greater than himself. A successful man to me is in service to that which is greater than he.
And so what's your biggest dream?
My biggest dream? For myself or for the world or for men or for which?
Doesn't matter. What do you
Yeah, I would
what's your biggest
see
dream?
a whole, balanced, integrated, to people and myself included to be in alignment with their whole self. In indigenous cultures, there was a thing called a vision quest. A young boy would go out and make connection with God in his own way through fasting and through prayer and through sitting there until he can make contact with his true self and his true nature. And then he'd go back to his tribe and say, hey, this is what I've discovered. This is who I really am, beyond his ego, right? And he's connected to a power bigger than himself, the same power that created the universe. And that's what they identified with. And that's, to me, my biggest dream would be having everybody connected to that part of themselves, who they really are, the world's conditioning be let go of and step into who they are behind, who they pretend to be. And that would be my biggest dream.
That's beautiful. So thank you very much. And so I've really enjoyed this conversation, and actually doing things like this is actually more for my own selfish reason. So I can learn more, and in doing so, sharing that with people as well. So thank you so much for sharing with us very candidly today.
My pleasure. It was
Yeah.
really fun.
Okay. Thank you very much. And so tune in again, and talk to you next time. Bye bye.